Hello everyone, I am D-Mind, the mind of one and all, and welcome back to another episode of One Small Fire at a Time. And the last episode, well, we're now going through Genesis' birthday. Yeah, she has a birthday party, it's her 13th birthday. And even Poe and... Wait, where is Geoff Godwin? He's not in the picture? Huh. Strange. Okay, but even Poe and Aidan is here. And everyone's here to wish Janice a happy birthday, but she says wishes don't come true. Have you made your wish? No. Well, what are you waiting for? Nothing. Huh? I don't have a wish. What do you mean? Everyone wishes for something. Not me. There's nothing left for me to wish for. I'll never be able to use magic, and because of that, I'll spend the rest of my life in a madhouse. People will continue to mock me and pick on me until the day I die. That's what's in store for me. What's the point of making a wish that will never come true? Janice? Wishes aren't going to change anything. All they do is make you more miserable by reminding you that there's something you want that you'll never get. Anna! Since Janice won't make a wish, can I make one for her instead? Huh? No, that's not how it works. It's okay, let her have it. But... Go ahead, Candela. Thank you, Janice. Here we go. She exhales, preparing to make her newly acquired wish. Then, with a huge smile on her face, Candela exclaims, I wish everyone here would be friends forever. Ha ha ha. My, that's a very wonderful wish. You know, I'm not so sure about everyone, but like, the fact that we don't see Candela and Drake in the future. I mean, maybe they just never appeared, so... But I have a feeling, I know, they might be dead. Just saying. Did everyone hear that? We should all try to be friends with each other. That means no more bullying. Please be nice to Janice. Understand? Yes, Miss Polidori. I didn't hear everyone's voice. Do you understand, Drake? Be a good friend to everyone, okay? Drake doesn't answer. He turns his sullen face away. Drake? Suddenly he explodes. Why are you saying that to me? It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault. Drake springs up, causing his chair to topple and rushes out of the house. Drake? Drake! Anna runs after Drake, followed by Mr. and Mrs. Sherwood, Commander Poe and Geoff. Out of curiosity, and since I really don't want to be at this party anyway, I follow them. Drake is nowhere to be seen. Instead, we see a 100-foot-long wooden plank that's barely wide enough for a person to walk on. It stands on one end, the other leaning against the visible wall above the gate, creating a slope. On closer inspection, we realize it's not made of wood, but rock. Can Drake use earth magic? Yes, he can. I see, very clever. He must have summoned this rock. He didn't escape, did he? I understand he summoned this to help him get over the barrier, but it's too steep to climb. And even if he did, the barrier is much taller than this thing. Not if you lower the gravity. Drake's feet hurt. Oh wait, this is no longer Genesis' perspective. This is just some narrator in the heavens narrating this. Drake's feet hurt. Climbing the makeshift ladder was easy, and so was the jump at the end. It was the fall that he hadn't accounted for. Couldn't he just, like... Well, I guess he's a kid, so he might not be able to, but couldn't he just, like, reduce the gravity so that he doesn't land as hard? Of course, there wouldn't be anything on the other side of the barrier to land on, and he hadn't ever thought about how far from the ground he would be. Again, he could, since he has earth magic, he can just, decrease the gravity, but again, he's a kid, he might not be able to do that while falling. In normal gravity, nobody would have been able to survive a fall from that height. Oh, so he did change the gravity. Still, summoning that ladder was ingenious. Without it, he wouldn't have been able to lower gravity enough to facilitate a jump over such a tall barrier. Now what? Drake Perrault stared at the alien world around him. Instead of walls, the horizon was filled with buildings of all sizes and shapes. Above those, carriages and omnibuses flew from place to place. Drake finally realized that they weren't just randomly flying over the madhouse, and instead had actual destinations. The street where he stood, when was the last time he had seen a street, sprawled endlessly before him? But this fascination didn't last long. He was suddenly aware of the size of the world outside of the madhouse. Drake Perrault had never felt so tiny. He heard footsteps coming from behind him. He wanted to turn around and see who it was, but he decided against it. Instead, he stared at his own feet. He felt a person. Who? Approaching. Closer. Closer, ever so closer. He clenched his fist. The person was closing in on him, and then ended up right next to him. Drake instinctively looked away, but the footsteps began to fade, slowly, gradually, until they eventually disappeared. When he could no longer hear anything, he looked at the street again. He was alone. He exhaled when had he started holding his breath, and took a tentative step forward. He found himself in a busier part of the city. A dozen people were lining up in front of what seemed like the edge of a platform. Drake guessed that they were waiting for one of those omnibuses. More people stood and walked on the streets, some talking to each other. He noticed a woman staring at him. When their eyes met, the woman made a face, but since he averted his gaze right away, he didn't know what kind. He passed by a street vendor. Drake didn't stop to see what he was selling, who either said or asked something of him, but he didn't hear what it was. Instead, Drake quickened his pace. Why was he here? What was he doing in the city? Yeah, why he just... well, I guess... like, why did he suddenly just run away? What did he hope to accomplish by running away from the madhouse exactly? It was her fault. It was that stupid girl's fault. She shouldn't have been able to do that. She was unable to use magic, right? Then what did she do? How the hell did she manage to throw him to the ground so easily? Are you really that bummed out about that? I thought it was because, you know, all the adults were like, Drake, don't be a bad boy now. And then Aidan was like, you know, if you do that one more time, I'll kill you. Okay, we never actually said that, but, you know. I thought it was the pressure from the adults, but it was just that. He hadn't been injured, but the fall had hurt enough that he had to get Miss Polidori to cast heal on him. When she asked what happened, the boys blurted out that Drake had been knocked out by a girl and laughed mockingly. Okay. Since then, he always felt that people looked at him differently. The other kids no longer looked at him with respect. He might have even heard giggles as he passed a group of girls. And it was all because of a stupid trick. It had robbed him of his dominance, reduced him from being a leader to nothing more than a pitiful mess of a boy who had been knocked out by the girl who couldn't use magic. And here lies the beginning of Libertad. Nah, I'm just joking. Although, who knows, maybe it is. Wait, what was the... oh no, what was the guy, the leader? It was Hendrix, I believe, his name. The leader of Libertad, the first leader, the old leader of Libertad. Though I don't think this guy is Hendrix. Though he could change his name, who knows, but I don't. Hendrix had black hair too, yeah. And it was all because of a stupid trick. It had robbed him of his dominance, reduced him from being a leader to nothing more than a pitiful mess of a boy who had been knocked out by the girl who couldn't use magic. Just remembering it made him grit his teeth. He snapped out of his thoughts. The scenery had changed. Somewhere along the way, the buildings had become more crude, the streets had narrowed, and the brick pavement had turned into dirt. Not only were the people scruffier, there were also more of them. Drake could feel every single pair of eyes on him. When he turned his head to avoid them, he just met more eyes. He tried to run away but couldn't escape the gazes of these strangers. There were so many of them. Too many. Their chatter made Drake uncomfortable. Trying to ignore it only made their voices feel louder, drowning out his own thoughts. So that is his lunacy. He can't deal with crowds. It was as if he was being bombarded by their voices. They were talking about him, he was sure of it. This was not where he belonged. They must be talking about the boy who didn't belong in the streets. Drake kept walking. He wanted to go away, far, far away, anywhere, somewhere, where he could be by himself with just his thoughts. Here among all these people, he felt alone. You can't be... That's Libertad! Yeah, they have that scarf thing, that's their so-called uniform. Hey kid. The rough voice came from the man standing right in front of him. Drake didn't know where to look, there were people all around him, so he just stared at his feet again. The man continued. Kid, where are you going? Nowhere. Drake just wanted to go away. What are you doing in this place? Nothing. Drake just wanted to be left alone. You lost? What do you mean by lost? In a way, he was lost, he didn't know where he was. On the other hand, he didn't have a destination in mind, so how could he be lost? Say something, kid. Say what? Drake had nothing to say. He felt himself shaking. He was still staring at his feet. Maybe he should say something. Maybe he should say he was lost. Maybe he should say he just wanted to be left alone. Just say something, anything. He lifted his head, opened his mouth and looked at the man's face. And then Drake turned around and took off in a full sprint. Hey, where are you going? The man shouted. Drake kept running. He heard at least half a dozen sets of footfalls matching his own behind him, but he refused to turn around. Chapter 7 Partners. There hasn't been any news about Drake. Drake, oh god, where has he gone? Mr. Sherwood paced just back and forth near the gate. Every few minutes he'd go out to the street, only to return with an increasingly grim face. Where could he have gone? He hasn't been outside the madhouse for years. He doesn't know the area at all. What if he gets kidnapped? Or worse? Calm down, I'm sure he'll be back soon. How can you say that? People out there aren't kind to lunatics like Drake. You know his condition. The police are looking for him, they'll find him. Mrs. Sherwood is right. My men are looking for him as we speak. Please don't worry, Mr. Sherwood. Mr. Sherwood doesn't respond, his gaze remains fixed on the gate. Speaking of which, what is his condition? That's something I also like to know. Drake doesn't look crazy to me. But Mr. Sherwood just continues silently looking outside with a worried face. Either he didn't hear Commander's question or he chose to ignore it. Drake has social phobia. He's always nervous around people, especially strangers, and he's prone to having panic attacks. Wait, what? That Drake? Social phobia? You've been here for a long time, right? Don't you remember that Drake was really quiet when he first came here? Now that you mention it, you're right. That was 3 or 4 years ago now that I think about it when Drake came to the madhouse. He was a really timid kid that I never really paid much attention to, then he randomly decided to start picking on me. Drake's condition has certainly improved a lot since coming here. Mr. Sherwood speaks in a weak, quivering tone. I tried discharging him 2 years ago, thinking he had fully recovered. His parents came to pick him up. They walked him out of the gate, but they hadn't even reached their carriage across the street before Drake broke down crying. That sounds pretty bad. Yes, we immediately readmitted him, and he hasn't stepped outside the gate since then. Until today? Yes. But if he's so anxious around people, why did he escape? Wouldn't he feel safer here? Well, yes, normally, but a few days ago. Mr. Sherwood darts a quick glance at me. A few days ago? You don't mean... Yes, when he was beaten in a fight. After you beat him, we noticed that Drake's behavior changed. He has looked very uncomfortable around everyone lately, even his friends. He wouldn't talk at all during therapy. Wait, are you telling me it's my fault? No, we're not saying that. But his condition worsened because of me. Well, yes, but... So I'm the reason he escaped. I peer out the gate. This is another... well, I mean, I guess... safe. Guess we'll have to look for the guy. Oh, you have a relationship point. Well, you don't need to concern yourself over. I'm going out. I walk to the gate. What? Mr. Sherwood stops me before I can leave. What do you think you're doing? I'm bringing that idiot back here. No, you can't do that. It's dangerous out there. It's not dangerous for me. I'm not scared of anything out there. It's even more dangerous for you. You can't use magic. Out there is a world where people use magic. You don't belong out there. I'm just going to find him and drag his ass back here. I don't need magic for that. It's not like people walk around the streets with their arms blazing all the time, right? I don't look any different from a normal girl. People won't even know that I'm mad. But... Maybe he's right. It might be dangerous for someone who can't use magic to go out there, but so what? What's the worst that could happen? It couldn't be any worse than death, could it? So there's nothing to worry about. I'm going out. I walk towards the gate again. No, stop! He stops me again. Let's just leave this to the police, alright? That idiot is going to hide from the police. You said he has social phobia, right? Well, maybe he'll listen to me. I'm not a stranger. Actually, there's no need for him to listen to anything. I'm going to drag his pathetic ass back here, whether he likes it or not. A bully with social phobia? That is beyond ridiculous. Have a cooler madness if you're going to be a bully. Psychopathy is a good choice. Specifically the kind where you laugh like a maniac atop some dingy tower at night. Well, you have a point, but still. Mr. Sherwood, what if I accompany Janice? I'll ensure she returns here safely. Oh, well, That's fine, isn't it? She'll be under the protection of a Dragoon commander. Nothing could be safer than that. Mr. Sherwood eyes the commander hesitantly for a few moments, then sighs. Yes, I think you're right. Very well, Commander. I shall leave Janice in your care. You can count on me, sir. I will keep her safe. Mr. Sherwood just nods. There's nothing more that needs to be said. Okay, I'm going now. I walk to the gate again, and this time nobody stops me. Instead, I feel a gigantic presence behind me. And that's Aidan. Wait, but what happened to Geoff Godwin? I mean, even in the picture and during the birthday before, I didn't see his picture there. And we have more dots. Always with the dots. I don't know my way around the city. I've just been randomly roaming through random streets and alleyways with Commander patiently following behind me. As we walk further from Eclipse, I notice the buildings getting increasingly taller, and the streets flooded with more and more people. Well, I think you're in the upper class area. You should... where Drake was, he was in like the slums, but you wouldn't know that. I don't think Drake be here. Look at all these people. He's suffocating in a place like this. Yes, this is the way to the city center. The city center, huh? We are already quite far from the madhouse. I'm surprised you can walk this far and not even break a sweat. Huh, I'm also surprised, but for a different reason. This guy has been following me this entire time, and the first thing he tells me is that we've been going in the wrong direction? So when did you realize we were heading completely in the wrong direction? Not too long after we left. You should have told me. Ah, my apologies. My duty was only to guard you. Well, yeah, but... duty, huh? Let's go back. I turn around and start walking. Forgive me, I'm not used to these sorts of missions. Normally I just follow the king's order. Granted, I give orders to my subordinates, but you're not one of my subordinates. I stop and turn to face Commander. Commander. Yes? Who ordered you to be my bodyguard? Commander hesitates. Well, nobody. I just thought that... Good. Apparently I got my point across. Since Commander's mouth simply remains open, I turn back and continue walking. For a while I don't hear Commander's footsteps, but then he suddenly appears next to me. Okay, I understand. Nobody orders anybody, is that right? Yeah, we could be like two detectives working together. What you call those? Partners? Partners, yeah. I like the sound of that. Kinda like those things where one's the good cop and the other's a bad cop. No, You can be the good cop, and I'll be the bad cop. Huh? Now let's find Drake. Where'd you think he'd be? Well, if I had social phobia, I'd want to be someplace without many people. Good thinking, Commander. Any guesses as to where something like that might be? Eclipse is located near the outskirts of town, near the magic machine factories. A lot of people live in the area, but the areas around the factories are usually pretty empty. Nobody wants to be near the factories when they are not scheduled to be. I see. Well, let's go check one of those then. Let's try one close to Eclipse. Lead the way, Commander. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am. I like the sound of that. Nobody's ever called me ma'am before. Is this the place? Yes. I look around, but Drake is nowhere to be seen. Do you see him? Afraid not. Let's ask someone. I see a man standing next to a cart full of bottles of water. He must be one of those people who can summon water clean enough to drink. I remember telling Anna telling me about them. Do you think it could be... what was your name? Elise's father? I mean, he isn't the only person who could summon clean water, but... you know, he's one of them. Even though many people can cast water spells, the water usually isn't potable. The few who are able to can usually sell it for a solid profit. I stride over to him. Have you seen a teenage boy around here? Huh? At first the man looks startled, having suddenly been asked a question, but he quickly composes himself and smiles. A lot of boys pass through this street every day. What does this boy look like? I try to remember what Drake looks like. He looks like a miserable teenage boy who got his ass kicked by a younger girl. Lol. Huh? Ahem. The boy is only a little older than this girl. He has short, dark brown hair and was last seen wearing a blue shirt under a white jacket. He might have looked shy, or perhaps scared. Oh, I remember that boy. I tried to offer him some water because he was sweating and was really wobbly, but he just completely ignored me. I hope he's okay. Do you remember which way he went? That way. The man points at an alley, but between a coffee shop and what appears to be some kind of small office building. Thank you. You're welcome, officer. Officer? How do you know that Commander is a police officer? Are you doing this good cop, bad cop thing so well that people immediately recognize this as the police? It's the uniform. I stare at Commander as we head toward the alley. Maybe something about his face, like those scars. I do find those scars a little unusual. Though there aren't many people with scars on their face, since they can just be healed with magic. Wounds only leave scars if they are allowed to heal naturally. But I doubt you can tell whether someone's a cop or not from the presence of a scar, so it couldn't be that. Oh, it's his clothes. That must be the Dragoon's police uniform. I thought they looked a little peculiar. Yes, you finally got it. Commander looks back at me. He must have noticed me staring. He certainly had an interesting way of describing Drake's appearance. Well, the man asked me what he looks like. That's what he looks like. Even if that's true, it's not very descriptive. Really? I figured there could be lots of boys with short hair and a white jacket, but not many who got their ass kicked by a girl. That isn't wrong, but... speaking of which, what technique was that? Huh? The technique you used to throw him. That was the first time I seen something like that. Safe here. Yeah, sure, tell him about the technique. Oh, that. I don't know the name. Before I was admitted to Eclipse, my pet, I used to see this circus show. The performers were immigrants from the east. You know, those people with yellowish skin and squinty eyes? Asians? They don't like that description, but yes, I know who you're talking about. We entered the alley. It's more or less deserted, so Drake could definitely have gone this way. Anyway, there was this part of the show where the performers would attack each other, not with magic though, just their hands and feet. Most people in the audience just laugh at them, but there was this one performer that I found fascinating. At one point, another performer swung this really long knife at him. But he just sidestepped the attack, and suddenly the attacker was sprawled out on the stage and his knife was in the other guy's hand. Long knife? Like a dagger? How long was it? A little longer than my arm, I think. Haha, that's not a knife, it's called a sword. Well, since virtually everybody in Overture can cast magic, we haven't used a weapon like that in centuries. They're useless against magic anyway. Oh. That's it. I fought against one of those swordsmen before. I burned I mean, I defeated him with my fire from nearly 50 feet away. Someone warned me that no matter what you do, you mustn't ever let them get close. They said that if they manage to get within 20 feet, you should seriously consider running away. Is that so? That performer had the long knife sword swung right at his face. He must have been pretty good then. Yeah, but it's possible that the one with the sword was holding back. I watched him swing his sword in practice. It was a blur and it sounded like a whistle when it cut through the air. You watched him practice? Yeah, but I was more interested in the other guy's technique than the sword. It's just that the performers practice together. So I'd stay after every performance and watch them. After a few days, they noticed me watching and offered to let me join. We didn't speak each other's language, but he showed me how to perform the moves and I just copied it. Okay, so that's where she learned how to do that. Before I'm like, where? How does Janice know this? Like, I assume maybe she was taught that in the police force, but she hasn't joined the police force yet, so I was like, what? At first, all I was doing was a bunch of boring forward and backward rolls, and I couldn't even ask why. But I soon figured out that it was to teach me how to safely respond to a technique, like when I was shown and stuff. For example, when your arm's twisted, you can untwist it by performing the right roll. Eventually, they had to go back to their country because nobody was coming to their shows. I started living at Eclipse shortly after that. I see. That's an interesting story. Commander and I continued to show through the alley as we trekked deeper. Our surroundings start to change. Instead of multi-storied buildings that seemingly pierce the sky, the houses that line the sides of the alley are much more modestly sized, just big enough for a family of 4. Interestingly, the streets start to fill with people who, unlike those in the city, seem to avoid overly fancy clothes and useless accessories, instead preferring simpler looking garments that are more functional. They look a little dilapidated though, but I guess it's not really a big deal. Commander and I keep walking. As we pass people on the street, I notice them stealing glimpses at us. What with the music? Like, this is battle music right here. I'm saying there's gonna be a confrontation here. Commander, I can understand he's a dragoon, but why me? Are they aware of my lunacy? Or is this where the Libertad started beginning, so when they say a police officer, they're like, oh, it's a police officer. Before I can really think about it, my attention is drawn to a group of 5 men at the end of a smaller alley to my right. Upon closer inspection, it looks like they are ganging around a boy. Oh boy. Upon even closer inspection, I noticed that the boy looks quite miserable, as if he had gotten his ass kicked by a girl. Janice, you are such... Oh boy. Well, Janice has always been like that. But I think this is a good place to end it, yeah. So, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at DMindGaming if you have enjoyed. And I hope to see you again in the next episode.